Coming to you from the Loading Ready Run orbiting underground moon base, it's the LRRcast.
No, damn it, no. I thought we were free of that. God, no. I was like, yes, Kathleen's not here. We won't have stupid songs. Alex isn't here. At least you're kind enough to not go over Paul. That's nice.
I've had to edit one of these. It's not fun.
No, you start singing after the intro, not during it. Come on, people.
Basic respect.
Basic respect for the editors.
All right, so this week we are going to be doing something that people have been doing a little bit on Twitter lately. And this is looking at the home screen of your phone with the idea that the home screen of your phone gives sort of some insight into your priorities as a person, I think.
It absolutely does.
Into your base character.
Yeah.
Your worth as a human being.
Yeah. What things do you prioritize? So, this should be interesting. So this is, we did a video, we did one a while ago that was like what you pay for.
Yes.
And this is, I guess, slightly related to that in the sense of it's like what things do you consume is some of what this is. But this has a slightly different feel to it. So it's what's on your home screen.
I was going to say we've had what do you pay for, what do you watch, or what do you consume media-wise, and now what do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so normally when we do podcasts, we try to have people not have like their phones out on the table and be messing around with them.
Not today.
In this case, that's actually a necessary part of the podcast.
And we'll also, for anybody who's audio only for the podcast, this is one that maybe you want to try to watch over on youtube.com/loadingreadyrun, because I will be putting up screen grabs of all of our home screens and all of our folders as we talk about them.
Maybe we can try to throw them up in the forum thread as well.
Yeah, we will absolutely do that. And I should also mention that I got kind of excited by this idea a lot, that I actually made a blog that is in its very early stages right now, and that I have ideas for, and I know Ian also has some ideas for, and we should talk about those ideas.
Yes, at some point.
But for the time being, it's super simple. I'm going to try to update it twice a week with sort of special guests, home screens, and sort of doing exactly what we're about to do on this podcast. And you can find that at wheremyhomescreen.tumblr.com.
You've got some big, interesting names coming up too.
Yeah, I've lined up enough people for the rest of the month just to sort of see the interest and see if people like it, and then we'll go from there. But I'm pretty excited for it, so definitely check it out.
And while this is not, obviously this concept is not iPhone specific. In our case, it is.
It is, yes.
We are all on iPhones. So.
With my blog, I absolutely plan on hitting up Android as well. But yeah, we're all iOS
Palm
users.
Pre?
Maybe I'll find the one or two people still using the Palm Pre. Yeah.
Handspring Trio.
No, okay. See, now you're just getting
that's sweet. Sweet Windows Phone home screen.
Yes.
I'm using a Game Boy Advance.
All right, so let's kick this off. Cam, you're going to start us off. First things first. What kind of phone do you have?
I have a very elderly iPhone 4S.
All right, so we're operating with a dock and 4 rows of icons.
But the height of Apple design in phones.
You think?
I honestly
very much liked the iPhone.
That was the best looking phone.
Oh yeah, definitely. It fits well. I can reach the top corner with my thumb with my tiny little baby hands. So yeah, I think it fits well, in spite of the fact that at first glance it feels very non-humanistic with its like hard edges. It feels nicer than my 3 did,
like a brawn razor.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I like the 5 just with the longer screen, but not actually larger. But anyway.
We're supposed to talk about what's inside the phone, not the outside. I'm sorry about that.
So let's kick us off.
So what I've got here is my top row is my YouTube app, Snapchat, Vine, and my calendar app.
Okay.
And
Do you have like do you tend to like group things?
I do have a grouping, but it only becomes apparent when you look at the entire thing. The row below that, I've got Wolfram Alpha, text messages, Google Play Books, Facebook. Below that, I have Slack, Messenger, Twitter, and my CBC Radio app. And what you'll notice, if you look distantly, is that they're arranged by color.
Interesting.
Wait, so but every once in a while, so does it really bugs you when apps like change their icon?
Yeah, like
it totally
last
messes
year,
up.
The CBC Radio app went from being
white and red
to white on navy, or it went from being red on white to white on navy blue.
So that
So it
actually
went from being in that corner on the top left to being on the bottom right corner.
So they actually demoted themselves by by changing their app color.
Yeah. So, and every once in a while I decide like a color value has been changed subtly, or that it's just not lining up correctly. So I move things around, and right now I've got a diagonal thing going on where the yellow of the Snapchat is much brighter than the yellow of the Wolfram Alpha icon. So that's determined the diagonality.
You also have all your red on the left hand side.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Even going down into the dock.
Really interesting.
Yeah,
Which I like.
And this frustrates me because I can't have it vertical as well. I would love if I could have like the verticality, but I can't.
Right.
Because life is hell.
Now,
So
is it deliberate that you leave you're leaving an empty line there?
it is. I don't like the look of having everything. I feel it's too crowded on the smaller screen, and I don't know. I just like having that gap as well. My wallpaper is actually a picture I took from the ferry on a cloudy day. And
You're using the same lock screen and wallpaper.
Yeah, well, I prefer the unity of design.
Okay.
So basically all of the things I have on my home screen are communications apps, with the exception of CBC Radio, books, and Wolfram Alpha. Oh, and YouTube.
Yeah,
Those
I mean,
are all things that I use to talk with people, and they're all different. If everyone could just settle on one thing, that would be really great. But you don't.
actually, wait,
So-
which ones are you? Sorry, so YouTube, Wolfram Alpha, and CBC Radio, and your
And
calendar.
books.
Oh, and books. And your calendar. I'm just realizing that if you were to switch Wolfram Alpha with Slack, you would have in the four corners there the apps
yeah.
that you don't use to communicate with people. But then you
Except
have books there
in
as
the middle.
well.
Yeah.
So you could move. Unfortunately, it's hard to move books, but this is how my brain works.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that a lot. Maybe I could move. Well, maybe I could actually get them all into the dock. No, that doesn't work because then I've got my music, which I just use the base iPhone music app, which is terrible, but it plays into the thing where if there is a native app for it, I'll default to the native app instead of getting a different one because you can't get rid of these.
I see
Right.
that in 3 apps from now, that's going to be not the case, though.
What, really?
Well, you're about to talk about Chrome in a minute.
Yeah, that's true. Chrome I just prefer because it coordinates with. I use Chrome on all of my devices, or on all my.
So
Chrome
just-
is my browser of choice, so I am able to coordinate bookmarks across it.
Fair enough.
It's, I mean, it would be, that's obviously one of the things that is lacking on iOS is even if you want to use Chrome or whatever, Safari will still open every once in a while.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, hey, I'm helping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could move the default browser to Chrome, I would be so happy, and my experience would just improve immeasurably. But I can't, and so I'm just made to suffer. And then you come to my second screen, which is just a blasted hellscape of like, folders containing default apps that never get used.
Yeah, I've got that folder. I have a folder just called Apple.
Yeah.
That's just where I stick all the
Yep.
default apps that I don't want.
I should just
Yeah.
use the Apple glyph in that.
Yeah,
Yep.
so do
Yeah,
I. Yeah.
exactly. Like the stock market app.
Yeah, I have stocks.
Yeah, sure. And like Apple Maps and the newsstand and the compass.
So, going back to your dock there, you have the phone there.
Yeah, which is
Yes.
vestigial at best, but I need that to order pizza.
So
And I feel
Wait,
that's-
there's web apps for that
Is
now.
that
you know?
is that the 4S?
The 4S. How do you mean?
Your phone is
your phone is
Yes.
it 4 or 4S? Yeah.
You could just be using Siri to order pizza.
Oh, I could too. But I get pizza from like this little place down the street from
yeah,
me,
but
which
you
is
just,
But you just say Siri, call this person, right?
yeah, you put
Oh,
you put an entry
right.
in your contact list,
right.
and
See, yeah.
this is where I'll get into commentary.
yeah.
No, I appreciate that.
Is that-
because
is
I'm
that-
not using the full? I'm not using the device to its full potential.
Is that literally the only thing that you've used the phone app for in the last little while?
And I also use it to ignore telemarketers. I guess
That's okay.
Yeah, that's
because
important.
otherwise,
That is important.
like I'll have an icon popping up in one of my folders saying that I have something that I need to address, and I'll get excited because I think one of my apps will get an update. And no, I just have like a telephone message that's 45 seconds of blank
Yeah.
from somebody trying to sell me a timeshare.
All right. Cool.
So I'm not really sure what else to talk about here.
No, that's- that's
I've
fine.
got Snapchat because a lot of my friends from university use it as kind of like an epistolary version of Skype.
Okay.
And then Vine because that's what I use when I want to take videos of things. Wolfram
Very-
Alpha because I use it as kind of like a more butlery version of Siri. Or a nerdier version of Siri.
I haven't thought about the idea. Like I use Wolfram Alpha all the time just by going to the website. I never actually thought about installing the app itself.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I bought the app when it was $20. Like about 6 years ago.
Right. I remember they were really big on. They were like, we're going to charge a ton for our app
Yeah.
a real amount of money for
because
some real
we think it's
software.
worthwhile.
Yeah.
And then after a while, they're like, you know what? Let's just make it $1.
Yeah.
because it is just a web portal.
Yeah, exactly. But
And
no, that's
I mean,
about it, really. Everyone seems to use something different for communicating. So really, this is my. I have to have all of these.
now, what is your notification policy? Do you have your like email and all your different messaging apps beeping at you, or do you have to
my phone-
manually check them?
I get text messages and I get tweet notifications and I get Facebook Messenger updates, but otherwise my phone is silent. It does not ring, it does not buzz, it does not chirp at me at all.
Wait, it doesn't ring when somebody phones you?
No.
Wow.
Manual updates on email or check every 15 minutes.
It checks every 15
Okay.
minutes.
So literally, you don't get incoming phone calls often enough to actually want your phone to ring when you get incoming.
Yeah.
Wow.
Definitely, I feel like that's the one thing you could easily ditch from the dock then.
Yeah.
And make some room.
That's
Yeah.
like that is I have not been able to make that shift, like, because like the ability to ring of a phone, that's like 90% of the
phone does.
usefulness of a phone.
Yeah. But I feel on like the phone is vestigial.
It's true.
It's an iPhone 4S. It has phone in its name, but
It's really more of a signifier of the form factor as opposed to the actual function.
It's like our tailbone, or
Or undergraduate degrees.
yeah, exactly. It fulfills no function anymore other than to kind of take up space on my mantle.
That's fair. All right. That's cool. Let's move on to Ian.
Yeah. So I've got the iPhone 5S in white, the Gandalf phone, as it was referred to. And so we'll start off with the lock screen because that's where Cam
Where's your
was.
case?
Oh, see, I waffle back and forth on cases. So
Okay.
before I had a wood case,
Yeah.
edged case.
Oh,
with
you do
some-
have a case on it.
And then I've just got the
The back. Oh, okay. Yeah.
the back leather sticker.
Okay.
And so we'll see. I'd like to move towards what you've got, which is the Apple leather case, because they're nice and minimal, but still give you some grippiness. But anyway, so picture is just a picture of one of my favorite Japanese artists I got off Pixiv. Don't ask who they are, because I don't know, but they draw pictures of construction equipment anthropomorphized as Japanese schoolgirls. So that's a thing.
Fair enough.
I use the Touch ID, which often doesn't work.
Sweet.
And current background is the on the inside is the
Overlook Hotel.
Overlook Hotel carpeting. That's what I wanted to say. Okay, so I don't really think I have a much of a layout plan the way Cam does, probably the closest I could say to having that is that I try to keep the important things either close to my thumbs or in the corners.
Okay.
So when I used to have a camera on the home screen, I would actually keep it in the upper right-hand corner because that's where the camera is on the phone itself.
Oh, I
So
see.
it's a good-
good mnemonic.
Yeah, good reminder. So that way, if you turn it to the landscape to take photos, you know, okay, that's the side I don't cover.
Yeah.
But now that we can access the phone through the home screen, or rather through the lock screen, just by swiping up, there's no more need for me to keep my camera, and it's buried 2 pages and a folder deep.
Okay.
And by the same token, I've found there's no need to have like the Photos app
Exactly.
because you can access that just through the camera.
Well, and most things that I don't need to keep on my home screen, I just swipe down to search for. So
yeah.
phone, and it's right there.
Yeah.
Until my music shows up.
Or you spell phone wrong.
Yeah. It's almost there.
All right. So
Okay, so top row we've got Safari because it's the default browser and it's always opening. So why fight it? I use Google Chrome, but I'll swap back and forth with Safari at home on my Mac. But it's the default. Why fight it? The same deal with Mail. It does a good enough job, and it's going to open it anyway. So I might as well get used to it.
fair enough.
Clock. The clock is one of those ones that I kind of wonder if I should move out and swap in with something else.
Because I mean, that's another one that's available from the pull-up menu, correct?
No.
No, it is not.
Isn't
There. Oh, yeah, there it
Yeah,
is.
it is.
You are correct.
Yeah.
Actually,
Oh,
so from
you
the bottom.
absolutely can get.
I did
So
not
I can
know
definitely
that.
get rid of. I think I like it because it is animated.
That's fair.
It does look good.
Yep.
And for setting timers, I just use Siri anyway. I waffle back and forth from my calendars app. I had been using Fantastical for the longest time because Fantastical has a great natural language system of
Yes,
setting
it does.
Yeah,
calendars.
that's what I use.
That's what I use.
But I was less happy with the way they laid out the calendars themselves. And then Calendars 5 came along and has a great natural language system as well. So I'm using that now. Who knows? I might swap back to Fantastical.
Fantastical's new OS 10 newest client,
So
which
good, it
which
looks like.
which is very pricey, looks incredible.
I use Calendars 5 on my iPad.
Yep, that's what I use.
But it's, I mean, getting a good calendar layout on the smaller screen of a phone is so tricky anyway. So
Well, the nice thing is because they're all either interacting with Apple's iCal or the Google calendars, and they all sync perfectly, there's no friction in swapping between them.
right, yeah.
The next line down is actually where some of my most important apps are for no good reason. Solver is the one app that everyone should have that very few people know about. It's a calendar, or not a calendar, a calculator on steroids.
Yes.
It gives you basically all the features of basic spreadsheet use, plus unit conversion, currency conversion.
It's good, and that's Solver spelt
Yes.
funny.
Soulver.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's one that I have been interested in.
and it's got a great Mac client as well, and they sync the sheets sync up between the phone, the iPad, and
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so it's good. Vert is a nice little unit converter, but I'm finding I use Siri more and more for that anyway. So I haven't opened that in a very long time. Simple Note is I use for my note taking because it syncs up with NV Alt on the Macintosh through
Right.
Dropbox. I just wish there was a better NV Alt Dropbox.
Do you subscribe to Simple? You have to subscribe to Simple Note in order to get the syncing. now,
Not
right?
anymore.
No.
Apparently, I thought so too, and then I recently looked back at Simple Note and found okay, it works now without paying. So
Interesting.
back to that. For weather, I use Weatherline, which is a really good weather program. It's not pretty, but it's very minimal, and it also syncs up with the Dark Skies API, which for most people in Canada isn't going to mean anything, except for Victoria, which falls under the Dark Skies area. Dark Skies will just give you the next hour worth of precipitation. So
Oh, I
you'll
know. I did not realize that worked in
and
Victoria
It's hyper accurate and really quite good.
because we're close enough to Washington that we get the same data. Eh?
Exactly.
Interesting.
Settings, I use enough to keep it on my main screen. Dropbox is a mainstay for accessing files, though I don't know why I don't have Google Drive next to it now that I'm using it more and more. 1Password If you don't have a password management program, get one. I recommend 1Password, but LastPass is fine too.
It's also a lot cheaper.
It is definitely
Which is fair.
by free.
Yes, by free. Cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean free. And like
And especially 1Password is more Mac oriented too.
Though it does have a
it
Windows
does have a
client.
Windows client.
Oh, does it? Oh,
And,
okay.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Core uses it actually.
Yeah,
And
so
it
do I.
syncs.
It's definitely not as pretty and polished, but it works just as well. So
And it's also LastPass is online, whereas 1Password is
Yes.
low. So you have to your stuff is stored in the cloud with LastPass, which is it's obviously all encrypted and everything. but
1Password
still.
will sync through the cloud.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then we come to the one folder I have on my home screen, which is what I call my news folder, which I guess I could call reading a little bit more, which has the Alien Blue, the Reddit client, Tapatalk for when I want to check the 2 forums that I actually ever look at.
Oh, that's one of those stupid apps that every time I go to a forum, it always like, hey, you could be watching. Dude. It's like, no.
Yeah.
I really object to like web pages that want you to use an app version of their web page.
I am amazingly hostile towards forums in general, just because I really don't like the way they work. And forums, for the most part, on a phone are pretty terrible, or even more terrible. They just accentuate the terrible aspects of forum software. But this actually works in making forums navigable on a phone. So it's worth giving a try.
Yep.
It hooks into a specific piece of forum software. I
Exactly,
guess.
which a lot of forums do use, at least the Insanely Mac and the Replica Watch forum.
Sweet.
Reader, best iOS
Yep.
Yeah,
RSS reader,
Yeah.
and one of the few that still syncs, so use that. Instapaper, in my mind, is still the best read it later service, and they just introduced speed reading, which is a really cool feature. So you can actually read articles one word at a time, and they say,
Oh yeah.
go in front of you. And Tumblr, I don't know why I have that. I don't use the Tumblr app for reading. I just use it for posting, but I don't.
Yeah, that's why you need it.
For my phone. Reminders, stock reminders app, because it's great, and you can add. It now syncs between people, between your Mac and your phone, and you can add things to it via Siri,
Right.
which makes it great. Find my friends, because I need to know where Beej is at all times.
We
So
really appreciate
so what you
doing that.
what that
Find-
so
find
it's
my
actually
beach.
Find My Beach.
Yeah.
Don't you call him friend.
Do is it's a timer app. that
I've heard
I
very
use.
good things about that one.
It's a really good one, and I use it specifically for certain timers that I need repeatedly. So if I'm carbonating my beer, I'll need a 4-minute timer, and I just go in and I push the button. If I'm cooking bacon, I need a 23-minute timer. My yeast takes 3 hours, and recharging
I
my
mean,
airsoft
that
battery takes
replaces a lot of what you would use like the clock app for.
Wait,
doesn't it?
how are you
Exactly.
cooking? Why? In what manner are you cooking bacon for 23 minutes?
7. We're going to have to talk later about the bacon method, which is using your oven to cook bacon, which makes perfect crispy
okay.
bacon every time.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I was like, you put bacon in a pan for 23 minutes. You ain't going to be eating bacon at the end of that.
You got to start with a cold oven, James. That's the key.
All right.
Authy is probably going to be removed fairly quickly. Authy is your one-stop shop for two-factor authentication. So instead of using the Google Authenticator app, which looks terrible and doesn't have any backup options, Authy looks great, syncs with my Mac via Bluetooth, and also keeps an online backup of my two-factor authentication information. So now that Slack has two-factor authentication, I've got 10 different one-time passwords managed in there.
Sweet.
But 1Password now supports two-factor authentication.
Yes, it does.
So I'll be moving everything over to that. It just takes time. Hangouts for...
If you have two-factor authentication, but both of the factors are in the same app, does that defeat the purpose of the operation?
Actually, 1Password had a blog post about that recently. It kind of does, but quite frankly, if you're keeping all your passwords in one place anyway, it's
Yeah.
You're already far ahead.
You're
Yeah.
kind of like winding up with a Gödel completeness problem.
That's it. Hangouts, it's there if people want to contact me via Google Hangouts. Facebook, I wish I could quit you.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah. I'll get to that as
And
well.
Facebook, and now that Facebook Messenger, I was a holdout for so long to not use that, and then for some reason, I had to respond to someone.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Slack, I love you. Thank you, thank you so much, guys, for coming on this Slack journey with me over this past year.
Yeah, and I mean, Slack, the app is it's almost just a like a web view of their website.
It's a web view to an IRC client on the web.
but it's a web view with obviously like it's heavily optimized, and I mean it's basically exactly what you want. It's sort of a web view in the sense that it looks exactly like it does on the website, but it's just a little faster and cleaner and nicer. So it's
and gives me notifications, which is nice too.
Yeah.
Then finally, we come to the other whole folder on my screen, which is my navigation folder, which is where I keep my
You
gas.
need a whole folder for navigation?
Well, because I
Mother
have my
God.
gas cubby, which tracks all my gas usage, mileage, and whatnot.
Okay.
That's when I bought the car. Google Maps, Waze, and Apple Maps, because God knows who's going to be good at maps today.
Okay.
Usually I'll just use Apple Maps because I'll use Siri to get me somewhere. But if I'm going on a long road trip,
Yeah.
I really like that Waze gives me real-time information from other people.
Yeah.
It's just a great one. Gas Buddy.
Almost is useless in this town, but when you leave the town, it's probably
It
fairly
was actually
useless.
really good from where I was.
Yes, that's true.
Transit, useful in this town where
Yes.
it wasn't in Edmonton.
Okay.
What's transit?
It's a great public transit planning system.
I just use Google Maps for that. I mean, Google Maps is really good for transit directions, but
This one will give you upcoming times based on your closest location.
It's an Apple app, isn't it?
No, it's not.
I thought transit was Apple.
It's third party.
Oh, okay.
no, Apple doesn't do that.
Park Victoria is an app I use almost every single day, and is so ugly it is hidden away on my home screen. It's not anywhere on a home screen. It's buried in the folder.
So hideous, but if you're in Victoria and you have a car, it is a must.
Yes.
If you like not paying $2 for a minimum park job.
It is, it's actually surprisingly innovative for Victoria.
And Uber's great for when I'm not in Victoria.
Right.
Bottom row, Overcast is my podcast client of choice. I used a different one for Pocket Casts, I think.
Yep, Pocket Cast, yep.
Which was pretty good, but Overcast is the current winner. Music is the only thing I use for music. I don't use any of the streaming ones because I am a huge fan of Japanese music, which does not appear on Rdio or Spotify or anything else. So I use iTunes in the cloud to get, I just got a notification for new podcasts.
There we go.
I guess there's probably Japanese music specific streaming apps, but you can only get them in Japan.
Yeah, exactly. Messages is great for talking with people who have Apple phones.
Yep.
And Tweetbot is the tweet client.
Yeah, it is
the end client. So that's my home screen.
Cool. Let's see it again for a second.
Sure.
I'm just trying to... Yeah, you should go get your ID fixed there. Yeah, that sucks.
I have problems with mine too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have never had a problem with mine. Yeah, I mean, you kind of went over all the ones that you think you're going to sort of ditch pretty soon. I brought up the clock, but I have the clock on mine as well, and I'll talk about it in a second. It's actually in the exact same spot, and it's there for the exact same reason. I like the fact that it's animated.
Isn't that also the default spot for it, I think?
It could honestly be, but...
I mean, but where the clock is, like literally 2 millimeters above that is the time, right?
Yes. See, I was thinking that one of the reasons that I like using the default calendar app is because it displays the date. And all I have to do is open my phone, swipe the date aside.
and then you can see, it's the 17th.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Or turn your phone on and pull it down, and it's there.
I hate how big that is, by the way. The date in the notification center. That is, I hate how it's two space.
I'm just also seeing something. We'll have to do a separate
notifications
for the widgets thing. I barely use this thing.
Yeah, my notification center has not been optimized.
It's set up for how I would want it used, but I just don't use it. So, anyways, all right, let's keep going. Yep. I am up next. You guys have been talking about your lock screen. Currently, it is a image from Lock and Key, just a comic that I really like.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. And then we open up into my home screen. So if you want, you can, for me at least, you can actually go follow along at the Tumblr that I talked about earlier, because I was the first one who posted there, obviously. I kind of have my phone set up in, it's 4 separate sort of areas. There's the top row, which has for as long as folders have existed, which was in iOS 4.0, folders have always occupied at least some of my top row. I just like that when I click it, it used to be that it dropped down. Folders used to animate quite differently than they do now, but it sort of just stayed this way. So in my top left-hand corner, I have my utilities folder, which when you open it up, you'll have Find My Phone, Dropbox, the Steam app, just because Steam sales come on and it's nice to be able to go, yep, gimme. Skype I use for contacting.
What's the benefit of having Find My Phone on your phone?
To find my iPad or to find my MacBook.
Oh, does that too?
Or my iMac if I wanted it to. Surprisingly, that hasn't moved. So Skype, I use that to contact a couple people who use Skype almost religiously. It's kind of weird. Speed test I have on there.
Because you have to see the cat.
Because I have to see the cat, and I like to know how fast the internet I'm using is for some reason. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Settings is in there, even though I use settings fairly often. When they came out with the pull-up menu, the whatever they call this thing, the drawer, whatever, where you can like get your brightness and your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, turn it on and off. I found it less useful to have settings on the homepage. Hangouts, my calculator app, which is CalcBot, which is by Tapbots, the guys who make Tweetbot. And FreshBooks is my invoicing software. And this folder keeps going, but it's just more random crap that I don't use too often. Next up is my games folder. The way I organize my games folder is generally the game I'm playing. The game I've downloaded most recently is actually on my second home screen. If you swipe, the top two rows of my game folder are my evergreen games. They're the games that almost always stay there because they're games that I find myself playing more often than anything else. So Ticket to Ride, Ascension, Punch Quest, Lost Cities, Skyforce, and Threes have occupied those spaces for quite some time because they're just games that I love playing. I can basically play them whenever I want and enjoy them. And then games that I've recently downloaded and are playing more often than not occupy the bottom row. Orbitum, Mr. Jump, and Card Crawl are the three games right now. And then basically they just sort of...
You cycle through them pretty quick.
As I cycle through them, they either get moved onto more pages or I just delete them because I just don't need them there. Next up is the clock. Is exactly the same spot as Ian. It doesn't need to be there. I can see the time on my home screen. I can swipe up to access the clock, but there's something about having something moving on my home screen that I really like.
I noticed you actually don't have parallax turned on either.
No, I do not have parallax turned on. I turned that off. I wasn't a fan, and it's just unnecessary battery usage, in my opinion. Next is my weather app. I use Today. I have spent probably more money on weather apps than any other type of apps over the last, 6 years or 7 years, however long I've had an iPhone now. Today is the only one that I've ever found myself coming back to. I haven't actually ever heard of yours, so I'm going to have to check it out. I know there's one available in the US, and I can't remember what it's called, and I want it really badly, but it's not available in Canada, so that's a no-go for me. So that's sort of my quadrant one. I kind of consider that one area of my home screen. And then it's the second quadrant is the left-hand side 2 rows. So Coast Capital is my banking software. Sonos allows me to control my Sonos speaker at home. 1Password is, as Ian was talking about, a fantastic password management app, and you should absolutely be using one. Facebook, I wish I could quit you, but I can't. I have it on my home screen. I open it up, and I look at mostly crap that I've seen on Reddit 3 days ago. Or sometimes interesting. Like, I would say maybe once a week I find out something interesting about somebody who I used to be friends with, or, just friends from the past.
Babies.
And like, it's not even necessarily babies, but just like interesting things they're doing, or babies, and that's fine.
Basically, I wish I could rage quit Facebook.
Yeah, but it remains there, and it's been there forever. And I don't mind the app. It's not bad. I am a big fan of Pocket. It is my Read It Later service. I don't use the read it later service all that often. Like I don't actually use Pocket all that often. I find myself, I sort of like throughout a couple weeks, I'll throw a bunch of stories in there, and then one night I'll be like, oh yeah, I have this app, and open it up and be like, oh look, like 12 articles that I could read. I maybe read 3 or 4 of them, and I'm like, swipe, go away, go away, go away, go away. But it's a beautiful app, and I really like it. AirVideo HD is an app that I use to stream video that I download from like torrents or whatever from my iMac to my phone. And if I wanted to, I can then AirPlay it up to my TV in my living room.
That's one that you need to have the server.
The server, yeah,
and it does all the on the fly conversion.
It does all the online, and you can download them directly into the app as well from your. So I could actually download onto my phone,
right,
the videos that I do, and I could play them that way.
Considered using VLC for that?
I was using it, and then it went away, and now it's come back. So I should explore that again, to be honest. I've been using AirVideo has been an app I've had for a long time. Like it's been around for a while. So
it stood the test.
Yeah. So it's sort of just, it stays there. It works. I don't know if VLC does, but you can works over the internet. Like I could watch videos from my house right now in the office if I'd like. Next up is Wunderlist. It is my to-do list app. It's gorgeous. I really like it. We used it for a little while here in the office.
Yeah,
it never really catch
yeah.
on, but it's worked really well for my to-do needs, and it syncs up quite nicely with Fantastical, and I'll get to that in a minute. You were gonna say something?
I was just gonna say Wunderlist. It's got a good desktop app, but
it does.
It never really stuck for me because it didn't have decent keyboard control.
Yeah, that's fair. Next up is Drive. Drive, we use that a lot here for scripts.
Right.
It's the main thing I use Drive for. I store a couple extra files on there, but it's mostly script work.
And you do the same thing that I do with where I have like the Drive app on my home screen, and then
all the other stupid Google apps, they're hidden on the next page in a folder.
Right, and then because they automatically open from Drive.
Exactly. So Drive is just the central app that
It used to be that you could just do it all through Drive.
But
then they decided to make it 4 different apps.
Yeah, Google, man. Next up is Fitbit. I actually just very recently, like a week ago, got a Fitbit again. I had one earlier last year. It was a Force. It got recalled, but now I have a one, and I'm very happy. Super excited to have it back. And then finally, Safari. Like these guys, it's the default, so why fight it? Also, and I don't know if this is still true, but I know when Chrome first came out, Apple wasn't, because does Apple allow developers the kit to, because Chrome was not as fast as Safari.
iOS 8. I'll open that up.
Open that up? Yeah. Okay, so maybe I'll have to check out Chrome again.
It is still the WebKit engine?
Yeah, but iOS 8 allows... it is definitely still uses the WebKit engine, but it allows third-party apps to do high-speed stuff.
They get the good WebKit engine now.
Okay, cool. So maybe I'll have to check out Chrome again, because that would be interesting. So that's sort of zone 2, and those are the apps that I use often, but not all the time. And then sort of zone 3 is the other side, the 2 rows closest to my thumb when I open up my phone. So these are the apps that I use every day, often, and they're just right there, sort of within my thumb, right? That's where they are, and I want to be able to access them really quickly. So I have Castro, that is my podcast app of choice, and I have Rdio, and that is my music streaming service of choice. And you'll notice that I put the 2 music things together. Also, if you look over one more, Sonos is there as well. That's sort of my row of music. Next down is Fantastical. It's my calendar choice. I really like the natural language system, as you were talking about. Now that Calendar 5 has it too, maybe I'll check it out. But I really like the look of the list in Fantastical, so I've stuck with it. And then Google Maps. These are 2 apps that I use more often with my other job, actually. So they sort of live there together. Next is Twitch, which I use. I probably open Twitch once or twice a day, every day. And next to that is YouTube, and you'll notice 2 video services together, as well as Move Over One, and AirVideo is there as well. And then you move down, and you have Mail and Trello. Mail is email. That's fine. Manually checks every 15 minutes. And Trello we use for crap shots primarily. And it's been really good. So those sort of exist there. And it's also in line, sort of this whole line is kind of Loading Ready Run specific. A couple days ago, Mail was actually down on my the dock, and Slack was up here, and it went Wunderlist, Drive, Slack, Trello, which is all sort of Loading Ready Run themed apps that I use mostly for that.
Slack been
I
upgraded.
decided to try to move Slack to the dock just because I use it more often than Mail. Move one more down, and you have Alien Blue, which is my Reddit client, and Flipboard, which is just sort of my general news. Like if I'm like waiting in a line or just have a little bit of time to kill and I don't want to open up Twitter, I just open up Flipboard and you just sort of flip through it and look for interesting news stories.
You have a different Alien Blue icon than I do.
That's because you're probably not using the official Reddit one.
Yes.
Because Reddit bought Alien Blue.
Oh, interesting.
So you should check that out.
It's really good now.
Yeah.
It's basically the one I have is really good.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing. Nothing much has changed. And those are sort of my two like news sites. Like I go there and like that's where I get a lot of my information from.
You go Flipboard rather than Reader, eh?
Yeah, well, I mean, Reader is more. I used to be a huge RSS junkie, and then Twitter sort of more and more I found took over that role of getting me the information that I needed at that kind of pace. And now I just find myself following, the websites that I used to subscribe to their RSS feeds of. So I kind of get that information that way now. I miss Reader a lot. Reader was one of my all-time favorite iOS apps, but I just found myself not using it as much as I used to, and it's sort of just changed the way how I read my news. So, and I really like the look of Flipboard. I think it's visually a little bit more interesting, and I don't know. I feel like I'm taking more in, but maybe that's not actually the case.
The most newspapery like
it is
news gathering apps.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, my dock. I also have my phone on my home screen, but unlike Cam and his pizza, I actually use my phone very heavily, especially Monday through Wednesday, which is where I work with my other job.
When you're actually using the pad too to dial in numbers.
Oh yeah, like I'm opening up phone and dialing, the 10-digit number, right? So it does not make any sense for me to hide that. If it wasn't for that job, I probably would get rid of the phone from my home screen. I wouldn't need it. Messages I use every day. Although I have noticed that since we started using Slack at the start of this year, the amount of text messages I sent have gone way down within this group of people. But there's still a good number of people that I text who don't sort of exist within our Slack ecosystem, and I still use messages for. Tweetbot is my all-time favorite iOS app. It is the app that has consistently kept me from switching over to Android. Even when I seriously thought about it when I went from the 5 to the 6. I was like, if I'm going to make the jump, this is when I'm going to do it. And I was like, nope, screw it. They don't have Tweetbot. So I'm sticking with iOS.
All right. You hear that?
That is
Android developers?
Yeah. That is literally the only reason I stuck with it, to be honest. I love this app. It's open all the time. It accounts for, I think, over 30% of my battery usage on a given day. It accounts for a massive amount of my data usage on a given month. It just...
Right,
Twitter is huge. It's just an enormous thing I use now.
The trick with Twitter is obviously tweets are very tiny, but there's all sorts of...
But there's GIFs and Vines and videos. And that's the interesting thing is that I noticed Jer and Matt talking on Twitter the other day about how Tweetbot was using a lot of their data. And I don't think they realized that, if you open up the newest Star Wars trailer that was linked to you from Tweetbot or like in Twitter,
it's going to count in
that's going to count in Tweetbot, right?
Right.
All these GIFs, they add up. All these images, they add up. All those Vines,
GIFs
they
are
add
enormous.
up. Yeah, GIFs are huge. So it's not surprising at all. So, but if you are an iOS user and your phone can properly run Tweetbot, it is well worth the investment, in my opinion.
I think the reason that I don't use my iPad as much as I do my iPhone is because the iPad client of Tweetbot is pretty terrible.
It hasn't updated yet,
but they're coming.
It's getting there, which I'm very excited for. And then finally, Slack, which is basically the tool that we use here at Loading Ready Run and soon to be Desert Bus as well to communicate with each other. And it's been awesome. It's finally. I don't think it's ever it's filled the void that Google Wave sort of left behind.
No, but it's a different thing.
But it's definitely, well, it isn't. I mean, it isn't, but it's definitely done a better job than anything else we've tried up until now.
And we're just using the basic.
Yeah, we're not. I mean,
Wave,
we're just basically using it as a communication tool.
Yeah, Slack doesn't really have. You can't really do like we want to like have a script or anything in Slack, which we could do in Wave.
Yeah,
but it can link to Google Docs or whatever, so it's okay.
Yeah. So that is my home screen. Those are all my apps. That's why I organize it. I have a second page with just a couple extra little things, a couple extra folders, but this is my main screen, and I take an enormous amount of pride in my organization and curation of apps.
That's extraordinarily thoughtful.
Yeah. So that's mine. Ian, you got anything?
I was just going to say...
Criticize me.
The only criticism I can give of yours are personal choices there. I mean, Pocket and Wunderlist and Castro would be the only changes I would make, but that's just because I happen to like the apps that I use.
Yeah, that's fair.
Better.
So I actually think I like the look of... what's your... Overwatch, right?
Oh,
No,
Overcast.
Overcast. I think I like the look of it better, but when I used it last, it didn't do streaming. Or wait, did it do streaming and not download? No, it downloaded them.
Probably didn't do streaming.
It didn't do streaming, and that was kind of weird. I was like, oh, well, this kind of sucks.
What it does do, though, is it does do syncing.
Yes.
And it does in a really interesting way of you can share a position in a podcast to a person.
Oh, that's interesting.
If you're in a podcast and you say, hey, listen to this thing, tweet that link, and it will actually give you a web link where a person can load up on their computer or their phone and just listen to that part of the podcast from that portion.
That's pretty cool.
Cool. All right, Paul.
All right. Well, I've got a lot of, I guess, inertia on my home screen. I don't change it as much as I probably should, and so I have like duplication in a lot of stuff. So, like for instance, I have Clear and Wunderlist that are both used for, to-do lists, and of course, because I'm using both, it makes both of them less useful because I don't know where the list is stored. And by the same token, I use Simple Note and Evernote. Although Evernote is the main one I use. So starting at the top, Mail. I got Mail, Fantastical, 1Password, and Reader.
Do you have the old version of Reader? Isn't the new version silver?
Yeah, I have the old version of Reader.
That's awesome.
I never had any need to upgrade.
Does it still work?
Yeah. Well, okay. So my big thing with Reader. My big use of RSS feeds, other than just the fact that I get all my news from there, is that's how I get all my checkpoint stuff. So going through RSS feeds every week is actually a big portion of what I do. I also have it on my phone or my iPad. Although on iPad I use Mr. Reader because the Reader app for iPad isn't very good.
So who do you use is your syncing service then between them?
For my syncing service, because after Google, I used Google Reader obviously, and after Google Reader shut down, I got super mad because that was, like I said, it was an important part of how I actually did my job, and I pledged that I wouldn't be forced. I wouldn't be at the whims of some other company again. So I actually use a little app that I have installed on my own server. That is compatible with the Fever API. I
remember we talked about this. Yeah. I use Fever and you use this.
Yeah, it's called TTRSS. It's just a little open source RSS reader. The actual web interface for it is kind of mediocre, but it's compatible with the Fever API, and so I just use that for. And Reader connects to that, and Mr. Reader also connects to that, and so it works out quite well. Day one, I have my second line is I've got Day One, which is a journaling app, which
gorgeous. Journaling
which I really like. I have kind of fallen I journaled every day for about 2 years, and I've kind of fallen off that lately, but I have it there mostly. Again,
just staring at you disapprovingly.
Yeah, mostly it's staring at me disapprovingly, and again, sort of inertia. Simple Note, which I used for a while. I had a year-long subscription to it, which expired, and so I stopped using it. But I might actually start using it again. Drive, of course, for all the Loading Ready Run stuff, and then Evernote, which Evernote, so I used it for just notes and stuff, but the biggest thing I've used Evernote for is, and I still have stuff in here, is for doing voice messages.
Oh, okay.
90% of my script ideas for Loading Ready Run over the past 5 years or so have been, I'll be walking along somewhere and I'll be like, script idea, guy has a butt, and then and do it. And it allows me to quickly get the idea down without doing a thing where you have getting the idea down with enough context so that I can actually remember all the
Enough context, but less friction. Then.
Yeah, as little friction as possible, but with enough. Like, I find that if you have to type it, then you'll just type like "guy has a butt" with no context instead of actually like trying to fill out the entire idea.
Right.
So I find recalling it is a little annoying because you have to listen to the whole thing again. But and the great thing about Evernote is that it also records like where you were when you made that thing and stuff like that. So
okay.
you can, which can be useful sometimes. I'd be like, and so and you can look at them all on the map. So it'd be like, how many ideas did I come up with while walking to the office, or while I was at home, or while I was in Seattle, or whatever. And that's also I have Evernote. It syncs obviously with the web service, and I have it on my iPad too, which is handy because my iPad is beside my bed. So if I come up with an idea that I have to do before I go to sleep, so I don't forget it, I can pop it up on my iPad and be like, the idea, the thing, and then I have to try to figure out what that meant. So I use a lot of folders on my home screen.
Almost 2 rows, isn't it?
Yeah. So I have got, and they are divided up into, I've got diversions, which I call things that are basically when I'm sitting around and I don't have anything to do,
Yep.
or that. And so my first 2 things for there is the Loading Ready Run website and the Loading Ready Run forums. I actually have 2 separate links for that, which go to the mobile versions, which, if you didn't know, there are mobile versions of the Loading Ready Run website, and Alien Blue, which is the Reddit app, which I use all the time, Instapaper for read later stuff, Goodreader, which is just a great file storage system.
Storage conversion. And
Yeah, so that's just all the other stuff. iBooks for any books and stuff. The podcast, just the built-in podcast app is what I use. Azul, which is a video player, and the YouTube app. And then I also have like Netflix and stuff, although I hardly ever watch Netflix on my phone. But actually the biggest thing that I use the Netflix app for on my phone is if I'm like walking home, I'll like open the Netflix app and like look and see like what's new and like mark stuff.
Nice.
so that I have it when I get home. I have reference stuff, so I've got maps and Google Maps. Usually Google Maps I use more often, and especially for transit directions I use all the time. I really like it. Find My Friends, which I use primarily for tracking where Graham is. It's like, is he still at home? Is he still asleep? Probably.
So it's especially like the beach tracking app.
Yeah. Wikipanion, just Wikipedia. I like its formatting a little better than the Wikipedia online thing. Forecast is my weather thing of choice, which is by the same guys who did the Dark Skies app, but it's actually just a web app. Like it's
the Forecastio.
Yeah, so it's forecast.io, and you actually just save it to your, like, it's actually a website that you just save to your home screen. But I find it to be more accurate than weather, which is the built-in weather app, although I use that sometimes. Deliveries is for tracking packages, and it's amazing, really, really great. And it also syncs with a dashboard widget on iOS.
Which has now been...
on macOS.
Has now been upgraded to a full Mac app that makes use of notifications.
I like dashboard widgets on Mac OS. They seem to have sort of fallen out of favor, but I really like dashboard widgets. Flickster, which is movie showtimes and allows you to actually buy stuff, along with the Cineplex app. The first time that I was on the bus to the movie theater and bought my ticket to the movie while I was on the bus, I'm like, haha, future. The TD app, which is it was originally extremely mediocre, and it has gotten better over the years.
Yeah. The newest version where you can just swipe your total or your balances.
Yeah, so that's not too bad.
The big news story today is Apple Pay looks like it's going to be coming to Canada in the fall, and TD is one of the 5 banks they're talking to. So.
Cool. Okay. Well, all TD needs to do now is have more than 8 characters in their password.
Yeah, man,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, the fact that my bank password is the least secure password that I have.
Well, this was a brouhaha that they had earlier just this week with 1Password. That before that you couldn't even paste your password into the TD app.
Yeah,
so you had to look up your password elsewhere, memorize it, and if it's more than 8 characters in a weird combination, you're hooped.
The Yellow Pages app, which I use primarily to replace the one thing that I used to use the actual Yellow Pages book for, which is
ripping it in half to impress people.
Doesn't work in the app. No, what I use the Yellow Pages book for is looking up the phone number to Shaw when my internet is down.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna say if you need a step stool, your iPhone is not going to give you that much of a boost.
Lyric Find, which is just a lyric web thing, which I don't really use that much. The PayPal app. Shop Savvy, which I primarily use as a QR code reader. Passbook, which I don't really use too often. The main thing Passbook does actually is for plane tickets.
Yep.
And also my Apple Store credit stuff is loaded into it. So if I walk past an Apple store, it pops up and goes, hey, you've got Apple Store credit.
Come spend money here.
So I've got my utilities folder, which has stuff like settings, the clock app, calculator, contacts, the Rogers app, which lets me see my usage, speed test stuff, screens, which is a really great VNC client. It's basically the best VNC client for iOS or for iPhone and iPad. It's one of the more pricey apps that I have. I think it was about.
I think.
Yeah, I think I got it for like 15 because it's on sale.
I use it as well, and it's fantastic.
There are other VNC apps, but they're mostly kind of crappy.
Yeah. If you do VNC,
is there a Windows
do
client?
yourself a favor.
Well, it's VNC, so any Windows client that can do VNC
can do. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what's nice, Mac can do it by you just do screen sharing.
Right. Yeah.
Windows, you just have to load up a really easy client. So I can access like my computer at home or the computers here at the office.
Right.
The Skype app, which I use occasionally because I actually don't have a camera on my computer, just because I have a Mac Mini, so I don't have a camera on my computer.
Right.
So if I want to video chat with somebody, I have to either use my iPad or my iPhone. So I use that occasionally. Pinner, which is
The best pinboard client.
Pinboard client. I primarily use it so that I then have the pinboard thing in my whatever you call it. It's not a bookmarklet, but the thing in the like send to menu.
Oh yeah, the little shortcut.
Yeah. So Pinboard is my bookmarking app of choice.
Again, for the same reason you use Fever.
Well, I like to have. I mean, Pinboard. I don't have control over, but it is it's a service that I feel is reliable. I paid for it, and it's nice and bare bones, as they say. It works very well for my. It's as they say. Social bookmarking for introverts is the thing. Where the idea is that they basically took the Delicious client before Delicious crapped out because they got bought by Yahoo.
Did you get bit by Delicious as well?
No, I didn't really.
Lucky you.
But they took Delicious, they replicated the API, but just took out all the crap that nobody wanted and kept it super simple. So I really like that. Games, it's mostly variations of Where's My Water. I have Where's My Water 2, and Where's My Mickey, which are all basically the same app over and over again. Angry Birds, Plants vs. Zombies, Bad Piggies. So I don't actually play games on my phone very much anymore. I mostly like read Reddit and stuff. Creation, which is stuff like Camera Plus, the iMovie app, Photoshop Express, Cam Scanner, which I use, which has actually I use reasonably often, especially for loading ready run stuff when people I need to sign contracts and stuff. Cam scannering is often enough to do, it's basically just a camera app that's specifically optimized for taking pictures of documents.
Yeah.
And then it can like bundle them together into PDF and stuff. So it's quite nice. I have a folder called Nerdery that has various Magic Gatherer clients because the Gatherer, the sort of iPhone version of Gatherer, trying to access it through the iPhone is not very good.
Right.
So Orcish Librarian is one, and Micromagic is the other one. I could probably get rid of one of those, but I have a life counter, links to the Arch Enemy and Plane Chase apps that I made for myself, which are just essentially little web apps that randomly show you a Arch Enemy or Plane Chase card.
Oh, nice.
So that you don't have to have the deck.
Yeah.
Right.
I won't. Unfortunately, I probably shouldn't actually publicly tell people where to go to find those because they're. Wizards of the Coast probably wouldn't like that.
Not.
Creating it yourself is an exercise for the viewer.
Yeah, it's not very hard. I have a chess clock app, which is something. At one point, we were having fun doing like speed magic, where we like have a chess clock and switch back and forth. Pathfinder or PFRPG, which is a app that has the entire not only the Pathfinder core set but a ton of the expansions. So because I play D&D, and so this is a really good reference for basically all the rules and stuff for Pathfinder. And Dice Shaker, which is just a dice thing. And then I have another folder that I call Local, which is stuff that doesn't work unless I'm on my local network at home.
Interesting.
Right. Smart.
So, which is like Airfoil speakers. So Airfoil is an app that you have that you run on your home computer, and it makes it so that your phone will replicate any sound that comes out of your home computer. So I basically use it as almost like a Sonos thing, where you can have music playing in different rooms of your house. File browser, which is just a local, it's a local AppleTalk file browser. Air Video, again, this is I think an older version of Air Video.
Yeah, you just need the
Remote, so that's the Apple
TV
app. No, that's or I guess it works for Apple TV as well. I use it also for iTunes.
Yeah.
And then NPlayer, which is another movie playing app, which is really good. It can play. It's sort of like Air Video, but it doesn't actually need to convert it because it uses software decoding you can play like MKVs and AVIs and WMVs, all sorts of stuff, and it can access SMB, UPnP. It can access basically any type of FTP, even you can play stuff off
NFS?
I don't know about that, but so then I have Reminders app, Writing Kit, which is I've experimented with a little bit. It's a text editor program that works with the Fountain.
Screen. Yeah.
So if anybody knows about Markdown, which is a way of formatting text so that it has things. Fountain is another version of Markdown that's designed specifically for writing scripts. And in fact, for the past year or so, scripts that I write for Loading Ready Run I wrote in Fountain format. So it's just basically, if you format, it's just straight text, but if you format it specially, then it can be converted into a little bit nicer.
We could do a whole show on Markdown.
Yes. Clear, Wunderlist, Slack. So Clear is just a note-taking app. Colloquy is a IRS client or IRC client. Sorry,
Right.
IRC client, which I use specifically. It opens up and connects directly to the Twitch chat. So I used to just use the actual Twitch app for that, but the problem is the Twitch app, you can't. It's very hard to actually access the LoadingReadyRun Twitch account when it's not active.
It's. I mean, I wouldn't say it's hard, but it's definitely not.
You have to like search for it specifically every single time you open the app.
If you follow it, you can find it.
Right, but then you have to have you have to have a Twitch account.
Yes. Yes.
So basically, what it is the Colloquy opens up, connects to the Twitch app, connects to the Twitch IRC.
Yeah.
Period. Because I don't actually want to watch like our feed, but I find I find looking at the chat to be useful sometimes.
Yeah, I have that app. That app occupies my home screen during Desert Bus and does the same thing. I think when I opened up during Desert Bus, it just automatically connects to the Desert Bus chat.
I think it's pretty much it's the best IRC client I've seen for iOS.
Yeah.
You'll have to tell me what I'm doing wrong because I can't get that to work with the
connecting to Twitch stuff through IRC is a pain in the butt.
Okay. Okay, good. So I'm not
there. You have to get a special key to do it.
Okay.
And then I have phone on my home screen. I use it. I talk primarily, I guess, I like talking to my parents or just telemarketers. Very important.
Yeah.
I maybe made a mistake in that I back maybe 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even longer than that, 7 or 8 years ago, when I first got a cell phone, I used the number portability thing and ported my landline over to my cell phone because I wanted the same phone number.
Yeah.
Right.
But landlines are more likely to get telemarketing things. So I tend to get more telemarketing calls than most people, I think. Messages, Safari, I use Safari at home too, so it has the same benefit as Chrome, where it syncs up my bookmarks, syncs up my
history.
Although that has the side effect of occasionally when I try to when I go to web pages on my home computer, it'll access the mobile version because that's the one that's stored in my history, which is kind of annoying.
But the tab syncing, that's another good one.
Yeah, and then the music app. So pretty much normal stuff. Oh, and of course, my lock screen.
Oh God, your lock screen! I love this so much.
So my lock screen, which I guess is a picture of dirt.
Yep.
A close up picture of the ground. And I've had the same lock screen for as long as I've had an iPhone.
Which is 2008.
When I got my iPhone. So when we all got iPhone 3Gs. So there's a story here.
It was me, you, and Graham, I believe, right?
And Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we all got iPhone 3Gs.
Day one of Canada.
Yeah, day one. We went back to or maybe the next day or something. We were back at the Moonbase Mark 1.
Yep.
And we were laughing about we would do like the Captain Planet thing. So we would be like have the Earth, Wind, Water, Fire, and I don't know who had to be Hart. But
we made Matt Hart.
Yeah, we were like whoever somebody has to be Hart.
We made Matt.
And so everybody changed their home screen to like a picture of fire or a picture of thing, and I chose Earth. And I got a picture of dirt, which was just like Google search dirt, and like the first picture, and I kind of liked it. And I have kept the same home screen when they switched to Retina displays. I did the same search for dirt. The same picture showed up, and I re-added it so it'll be higher resolution. When I switched to the larger screen size, I did the search again and made sure that I had the full resolution of the picture. Right. So and the thing is now I know, we all, or a lot of us have, black iPhones, right? So the phone, it's sometimes hard to tell the phones apart, but I always know that mine's the one with dirt. On the homepage. And I've kind of got used to it, and I really like it.
It's been 7 years we'll have had iPhones for 7 years this fall,
But-
when they came out in Canada, and you've had dirt as your lock screen for that long. It's just incredible. I love that so much.
I also have problems with, I don't know, maybe I need to redo my Touch ID thing, because I also have problems unlocking. It could also be because I have a scar on my thumb
Oh, okay.
from just an accident when I was a kid, and I don't know if that messes it up, but
So
anyway.
I will.
So I guess I don't know how long, this podcast has probably gone on way too long.
That's fine. It's fine. I will say that I think the only two apps that we all share along our home screens, and I mean, we share apps that do similar things, but they aren't the same app, is Slack and Mail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I used a different mail client. I used Swift.
I use Swift. I used the Gmail client for a while.
Oh, Sparrow is when I
Oh, Sparrow. Yeah.
Sparrow I used up until they got bought out by
Dropbox, I think.
somebody. They got bought out by somebody, and we're like, all right, that's it. No more updating of our client. And I was like, oh, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
We made a retirement plan. We got bought by Microsoft.
Yeah. So and then I really liked it, and but now that Mail has the new version, like the iOS 8 version of Mail, where you can like swipe, is so much
good.
better.
Yeah.
Because I use the Loading Ready Run server uses we're on Google Apps, the like delete versus archive thing was
difference?
up until fairly recently. Apple Mail had a lot of issues with that.
Yeah.
And they've figured that out now. So it's nice that I can triage my mail pretty easily now.
Yeah.
So the mail client is pretty good. Yeah.
I think we might want to do a follow-up one of these days too, for maybe our not just our second screens, but a hidden gems.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair.
I have a big problem with, like, I have a ton of stuff on my second and third and fourth screens that I don't actually like, apps that I just downloaded but I don't
Really use.
that I don't use.
The things that get used
See,
once in a while.
And there's always the problem where it's like, if you delete the app, then it also deletes all the information.
Right.
And even like I'm annoyed that even with like games, like you can't delete a game
Without keeping its data.
and you lose all the like your progress in the game if you ever want to reload it onto your phone.
But
which
there's
is annoying.
things here that like, one-time use things that will come up every now and then, like Tally, which is great for just using a tally system.
Yeah.
Or for scanning the QR codes, which you were saying. I've just
Right.
discovered ScanBot,
See,
which has
Scanbot's sweet. Yeah.
yeah, it
I'm
has-
always surprised that in every new update, the camera doesn't do that natively.
yes.
Scan barcodes.
I've got the GoPro app, which is kind of cool actually. It's an app that connects to the Wi-Fi network that newer GoPros create this little like weird proprietary Wi-Fi network, and then you connect to it on your phone, and then you can open the GoPro app and actually preview what the GoPro sees.
Preview, control
Which
it.
up until the newest GoPros was a huge pain in the ass to actually see what a GoPro is seeing, because they don't have viewfinders on them, of course. So that app is super handy. I've got a few little things like the Kickstarter app, the Bing app, which I have just because it adds a
Translation.
It adds a translation function into your, so you can translate any web page really easily. Otherwise, I would not have the Bing app.
Transmission is great.
Transmission. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Reddit AMA app. I love that app. I have that app
Which,
installed. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And I've there's also various apps that I've like downloaded, because they seem like a cool idea, but I haven't got around to actually looking at them.
Yeah.
And I keep them on my phone, because if I don't, then I'll just totally forget about them.
Right.
Like there's apps, it's like, when there's like a deal on an app, it's like, this thing's for free this week. And you're like, well, I might as well download it.
Yep.
Because then it'll be, even if I don't use it, it'll be like in my history. But then you end up with a bunch of crap that you don't want on your phone.
See, I have to be very aggressive about deleting apps that I don't use, because I don't use a streaming music service. All of my music is stored on my device.
So your space is a premium.
Yeah.
I store all my music on my device as well. So
You have a bigger phone though, right? That's
I've got 64.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I have a 16 gig, so
Yeah.
all of my MP3s are downsampled to 128K. But whatever, I'm listening to them through earbuds anyways.
Yeah.
So,
Stock earbuds.
yeah, because I'm poor.
All right, guys. I think that's going to do it. I feel like we
So-
talked about home screens a lot there. If you liked,
It's clear that we
have
care a lot
opinions.
about it.
Yeah, and that's cool.
Like, in a very real sense, it's like what you do.
Yeah,
Right?
No, it absolutely is.
This is a cybernetic extension of ourselves.
And it's like how much, and it's the time that in really even in comparison to like your home computer these days, it's the device that you actually spend the most time with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's absolutely the most personalized, and I love it. And that's why I started that blog. So if you like this, do go check out wheremyhomespace.tumblr.com. The actual blog is called Where My Homespace At, but I decided not to put in the at on the Tumblr thing.
It's a sweet name. Surprised that's available.
Yeah, I know. It worked really well. It also works really well. I was able to use it already on my first guest today. Andrew is supposed to be my the second person to post an update to that, and I was wanting to get it up yesterday, and he was like, "I'll get it to you tomorrow," and I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." But I was able to post or text him this morning and be like, "Yo, now you know why I named my website the way I did. Where my home screen at?"
Nice.
So that'll come, and then we'll do a whole bunch more. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Expect these guys. I'll get these guys to do posts as well, and yeah.
I guess we could do another version of this podcast with other people.
with other
too.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
we absolutely should. I
well-
think everybody else will have fun with this as well. So
Oh, also, just actually quickly, I was just looking at. I was talking about, I've got like iBooks and stuff. I also have the Kindle app,
Yes.
which is incredibly frustrating because I just recently was reading a book on it and making notes all through it. And if you have a real Kindle, it's great because all the notes
Sync.
sync and stuff. And they also they're also just in like a text file on the Kindle. And if you just plug the Kindle into your computer,
You can get
them off.
Nice.
If you have, just as a warning, if you have a Kindle or if you have the Kindle app on your phone or your device and you're you're reading a book that wasn't actually just bought from Amazon, so if you just like load an EPUB book or whatever on, there is no way to get the highlights and notes off your app.
Ooh.
It's terrible. It's really, really bad. If somebody can tell me a good way of getting that off, I would be surprised. I spent a long time looking because I was like, God damn it, why can't I get these? You can, if it's something bought from Amazon, it gets synced up to their website.
Whisper sync.
But if you didn't buy it from Amazon, it doesn't show up on the website, and so you can't download it. And so it basically makes your notes like it syncs between your phone and your iPad, but you can't get it onto like your desktop computer to like do anything with it. So anyway, the
right.
Kindle app. Otherwise, it's cool that it exists, but yeah. Anyway,
all right, let's cut this off because we could probably just talk for hours, and we probably shouldn't. Apps. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening this week. As always, this podcast and everything we do is brought to you by you.
Yay.
And our fabulous supporters over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Head over there. It's not there.
It'll be there.
You're pointing at nothing. Oh, yeah, I guess that's my job now. Normally that's your job, isn't it? To like add it in during.
I could run over and click it
No,
right
that's
now.
fine. We'll figure it out.
We'll add it in post.
You will add it in post. Thank you very much.
Post.
Head over to patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. And if you'd like to show your support, that would be amazing. Thank you to everybody who has so far this year. It's been incredible. And we will see you next week for a new episode of the LRRcast.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.